I'll start now. Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Helen Millar and this is Head to Heart Living, how to live a life less from fear and more from love. And I'm so excited because today I'm getting to speak to a fabulous woman called Renske. You might know her as the most amazing DJ, but she also does a lot of work in mental health and mental health within the music industry and the music scene. And as I've spent my life working with acting and in the arts, understanding, and now working very much with mental health, understanding we have so many similarities and crossovers into our experience of being human beings on this planet. And I'm so grateful that you're here to join us today. And what I'd love to know and share with people is a bit about your background and then the work you do now. And as we go through, we'll have a chat about tips to help people and perspectives. And so you don't feel that your people are alone. The time we're living in now is pressure on mental health like never before. We've never experienced this kind of reality as human beings. And I think, especially if you've not sort of delved into your mental health before or had any significant challenges with it, you don't quite know what's happening. And some people have the tools and techniques and friendship groups where it's okay to talk about, and some people don't, and they're alone. And we know that suicide rates are really up in the last year and a half. And I want to give everybody the perspective that it doesn't have to end like that, that no matter how bad you might be feeling now, there are ways through, and it's not just a slog. You can be a much stronger, happier, healthier, more resilient person because you faced mental health challenges, and that they're not the worst thing that can happen, in terms of they can actually be a gift if you can use them correctly. That sounds like a good or bad. If you, basically can be a real liberation to living a much fuller life once you understand the mind and all that stuff. So welcome, Renske. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Helen, for inviting me. I'm doing well. Yeah, I was having a quite relaxed day, and then all of this, the last hour, all these weird stuff was happening, and we were talking about, like, it's probably in the energy of the air, but which you're probably going to talk about because we're almost at solstice, and that's your department. But yeah, there is. I'm actually quite balanced if I see what some of my colleagues are going through in the music industry as well. I think I'm a little bit more balanced because I kind of accepted the things that they are. I'm not performing really. I'm in the Netherlands. We are in a full lockdown again for the coming month, like really full lockdown. So yeah, it's challenging, but it's also depending on how you're dealing with things, exactly as you said it. Yeah.
So I didn't know you were in a lockdown. Sorry to hear that.
Since yesterday, full on again.
Well, interesting timing as always with the news that comes out. Massive full moon in Gemini yesterday, which is all about what choices you're making. And we have the solstice, which is the most powerful solstice. We have 2 a year, but tomorrow's is the most powerful solstice of our lifetimes. And even like if you look at the numbers, it's 21st. So 2-1, 1-2, 2-1. You think about computer programming being in code, numbers are the code of the universe. So we have this, and I can talk a lot about the fact it's opposite the galactic center. So it is a huge opportunity for mass awakening and ascension and consciousness expansion. And the powers that don't want that to happen because they control or have controlled the world, bringing out a lot of bad, fearful, antagonizing news over this period in order to distract us to. They did the same thing last year with putting us all into lockdown over this period, threatening Christmas. So people lose that connection and they lose the ability to be catapulted into a much, much higher timeline and experience of life.
Yeah.
But no matter what they say, we are always the people in control of our lives, regardless of what physical things we can or cannot do. Our state of being is down to us.
Yeah.
And when the more we tap in there, then the more connection we have and the more we still work with these energies. So nil disperandum, as my mum always used to say, which basically means don't give up. Keep going.
Yes.
Yeah, so tough times for everywhere on the planet right now. I think the energy is everywhere. We can't really run away from it. How could you maybe explain a little bit about how your life was prior to having difficulties with your mental health, and then what that's taught you to where you are now?
I'll try to do that in short. I've been through some traumatic experiences already when I was really young. So then when I became a teenager, I started to feel that I felt a little bit different than my people from my age. And this is where it all started, because the triggers started to come up. You're in puberty, you're like, everybody in their puberty is already asking themselves, like, who am I actually? So they're doubting themselves, or they're trying to take on different identities, or they're just trying things out. But for me, the things that really popped up in my life in high school as well, and during my study, were panic attacks. But it started with just being insecure and fear of failure. So I was always trying really hard to do my best and to prove myself that I was a good girl, basically, because also I didn't really want to be seen, which is a weird paradox on the work that I'm doing. I've always been on stage, well, at least for the last 10-15 years. I've been hosting shows, music conferences, been on stage as a DJ as well. But I noticed, well, I've actually built up to a huge, severe burnout, not the one that you're like home for 6 weeks and then you recovered and you go back to work. It's 4 years ago now, but that I stopped everything that I was doing, also in the music industry, picked it up back up again after, and then the pandemic hit. So there was like thing after thing after thing. But in between, like in my life until now, I've healed from so many things. And it's just a beautiful, this road of discovery to I call it like you're peeling off the layers of an onion, and you come to the core of your own identity, who you really should be, without all the conditioning and the traumas and the things that are not you. In human design, we call that the not self. It's not you. It's you're trying to operate in a way that is really unnatural to you. And that's when you get depressed and burned out. And so yeah, it's a process of peeling off the layers and trusting that when you do so, things will, you will definitely reach more alignment in your life and more flow. But the thing about healing, and this is for people that are really dealing with mental health problems like right now, I really, really want to emphasize that if you can visualize, you're peeling off the layers, that doesn't mean that if you have peeled off one layer before, that it never comes back to you again. It will come back to you, and it feels like, oh no, I have to deal with this again. I've been through this. I have looked at that. I have healed from this. I thought I was past this. Well, you're just looking at a different dimension. It's a deeper level of healing. You're coming to the core. So never give up. It's the work that you've already done. You don't have to do that again. If you're doing the work, if you're not hiding away from it. That's really something that I want to tell people that are maybe watching and are dealing with difficult things in their lives right now.
100%, I agree with you. I had so many different coping mechanisms for getting through life, again, having gone through a lot of stuff when I was little that I hadn't even consciously got to yet. And so I was like, okay, so I got rid of that addiction and then this addiction, and then I was like, oh, well, I'm never doing that again. And then 4 years later that comes back, and it's like, because I always looked at the addiction as the problem, but the addiction is just a coping mechanism for some feeling that's coming up that I don't want to have to look at, or don't have to feel like I have the tools to look at, or even consciously aware of. Exactly. And so the addiction is a coping mechanism that's kept me alive and it's kept me going.
Yeah.
And we only get the next level of the pain when we're strong enough. So all the other work you did is building up your strength to get another level. And, you know, sometimes, you know, it's like the stronger you get, sometimes the bigger the problems become, or it seems like it, because you have more resources. But, you know, rather than feeling like a victim in life, as a sort of an analogy that I liked when I was introduced to Buddhism, was that you want to be a surfer. Surfers don't go down to the beach and want there to be no waves. Like, they want the waves so they can get better, they can have the thrill of the surf, they can, you know, jump around on their board. We tend to get in the sea and then get really cross there are waves, and try and like hit the waves with our board. Get on it.
Yeah.
And so if we see these obstacles and challenges as waves, then it's helpful.
Definitely.
How easy did you find it to express or talk about mental health within the music industry?
It was a bit scary at first. Now I'm fully dedicated, and I think people, well, I notice people are really also seeing me as the person to speak with when it comes to mental health issues. But that took a while before I really started to feel like, wow, am I doing this? Because there's a big stigma around it. And I've seen so many things in the music industry, and well, I just have to name him. I'm reading the book now. So this is the book from Avicii, from Tim Berling, who we lost in April 2018. And this was a huge shock for the entire electronic music business because Tim already stopped touring for 2 years. So we thought he was maybe, you know, doing well. He took his own life at the moment where I just got back from 6 months living abroad, trying to heal myself from that was the most painful time in my life. And when I started to see the light in my life, I heard the news that he took his. So that was like a catalyst for me to, before I know it, people invited me to not host an award show or a music conference, but to speak about mental health, about my own journey, what I've seen in the music industry. Obviously, I spoke about Tim not because he's famous, I have known him. No, he's famous. He is a legend, and because so many people know him, and it's. I think if he could, if he still, you see, I'm even, you know, it still makes a deep impression on me, and I'm really zoned into the book anyway. When it comes about this topic, you can't get serious enough. And I even spoke to his father last year during lockdown. We had an online meeting, and because this is really, it became my mission. I mean, besides that Tim was a famous artist, he was also Tim. So he's a human being. We all are. So breaking the stigma and raising awareness about this topic really became my mission, and guiding people on their path to living a more real life, you know, not in the not self, but the peeled off layers, the deconditioned life. And yeah, that's basically the combination. What I'm doing now, I'm raising awareness about the topic, and on the other hand, I'm guiding people right now.
Great, thank you. I mean, I know there's also a lot of controversy about how he passed, and what he spoke out about within the music industry as well, and fame and things like that. So it's a big. He created a lot of good, I think, in the world with his life. Yeah,
he was a shining light, and I think he still is, because his parents have set up a beautiful foundation, the Tim Berling Foundation, which does events around mental health, raising mental health awareness. It's really amazing. So he's living on, and he's passing on the light. We're all passing it on. And what I found really intriguing is when I learned about human design. We'll talk about it in a bit, but it's a system which I use now to help my clients to understand themselves better. I dived into my design, obviously, before I became a certified specialist. And I got curious about Tim's, and it seemed that we are really much alike. We have very many things in common, and this is probably why I felt drawn to him when he was just this rough diamond still in the beginning of his career. I saw this really shy boy in front of so many people, and within the next year he became the main artist in electronic dance music, the more commercial side of it. And wow, it's again, he was not just Avicii, he was Tim Berling. And to understand who you are first and bring that into your career is, to me, it is foundational work to do before you do anything else that makes you climb high heights, because you always bring yourself to any stage that you perform, or to any job that you want to be doing, or reach any goal that you bring yourself. So it starts with you. For him, he was, first of all, very young, and early on in his life, he was already shaky when it comes to his mental health. So if you take that with you in a career like his, it only adds up, because there is no time to peel off the layers. There's only time for touring. So yeah,
I think so many people found wherever their business or expression of self lies, that in the lockdowns, maybe it's the first time in their life they started to do some inner work, because they were furloughed, or they didn't have any of the distractions. And for a lot of people that was helpful, and I know like a lot of people got really into fitness and things like that, but I think a lot of people went the other way and turned to, I know the alcohol sales went through the roof, and things became very self-destructive. I think especially, looking at domestic violence and things like this, if we're so busy or we're in such survival mode, we don't have the time or the luxury to look at mental health or, doing the work on ourselves. And I think what this pressure chamber that the universe is giving us right now is that it's no longer possible not to. And time is running very short for us to collectively break through and expand our consciousness. Because when we come into this pressure chamber, whether that be a breakdown or collective existential crisis or whatever it may be, the only way out is through. And we have to, and through here. And there's so much, I think, what we're seeing at the moment is people projecting stuff outwards. And even some of the great teachers and orators of our time, although what they're saying is great, the real depth and resonance, which I think Tim had, and which lots of people who we've lost young in life have, is because it's coming from a much deeper place. It's almost like a not personal place. And there's words and energy that needs to come through. And it's coming through people maybe who are slightly more cracked open to let it through.
Yeah.
But that's how it needs to get into the collective mix. And that can be, I think, really challenging in the creative fields, because people often have a real ego ownership of their art, whatever it is. And then, is it me? Is it coming through me? And if you don't have some form of spiritual understanding or energetic understanding, your own mind can get very challenging with, like, how do I keep recreating this? I'm not enough. And all of the, as your hoodie so rightly draws us, like these problems of how do we keep doing this thing, which is kind of partly our skill and technique, but also a bigger energy that's moving through for creative work to happen.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Tim got up while he was also young. I'm talking about Tim again, but like I said, it's a big part of a big inspiration of what I'm doing. He puts the fire on. He got at that stage when actually after he stopped touring. This is the time where he got into more spiritual things, and he even went to the Amazon to do an ayahuasca session. And so that came later in his life, only the last 2 years from his life. And we all take that turn, hopefully at one point in our life. Some are 60, some are even 70, some are 7. You know, it comes when it comes. It comes when you're ready to kind of embrace it in your life. Because I think, well, without the deeper layers of understanding consciousness, I wouldn't also be here, because that really does give you hope. Feels so deep, but something to hold on to. It's like you just know there's trust. You just know there is something else. So yeah.
And a breadth of being able to understand this crazy world from a very different perspective, which is much more manageable. It just makes, like, if every day you thought you just had that day to like be the best life and there was no other day, like the pressure on that day is extraordinary. But if you're like, oh, I've got at least 5 years, or you know, you've got, it's like thinking of things in terms of energy and timelines, and like the cosmos just gives me that amount of space, rather than going, it's all or nothing about anything.
Plus, when you are overwhelmed with anxiety or depression, or really maybe just 1 or 2 really dark days in your life, or when things seem to go all wrong, or the funny thing that I read in the book here as well, even though I've known Tim, but the book obviously brings in the details. I laughed because I was like, wow, when he was in rehab in Ibiza, the first book that he got from one of the people there that was guiding him was Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. And I thought, wow, I read that book also early on, like 15 years ago, I think. And I understand why they gave him that book, because it's the introduction to becoming more mindful in your day, and it's the power of now that gets you through all of it, because it's now, it's only the present moment, and there is so much power in the now and how you react to it. So it was, I was like, hey, that's another thing that we have in common, right? It's like it made a really big impression on him, but it also made a big impression, something so simple, but it made such a big impression on my life as well when I read it back in the day. Yeah.
I think I'd like to steer a little bit into mental health and exactly what it means and how it can show up and what people can do. So we mentioned panic attacks before. I've had some of those. I think also just something that maybe isn't addressed as much is just feeling miserable a lot, and yet being very good at putting the mask on, very good at, you know, showing no signs. And sometimes there can be, even in certain spiritual circles, like a real high vibes only.
Yeah. Oh yeah, good that you mentioned this.
And people not doing their shadow work. And actually,
exactly,
it's, you know, we're human beings and we have this whole spectrum of emotion, and because you're crying your eyes out doesn't mean you're not spiritual, or you're not, you know, you're not able to you know, there's a lot of bypassing that happens. And with what's going on in the world right now in the spiritual community, I also see a lot of bypassing, and it's challenging to know the best way through and forward moment to moment. And so the trust comes in, but the cleanest way, everything is an emotion from how I understand it. So the cleanest way is to be aware of what you're feeling and allow it to come. Allow the tears or the anger or whatever it is to come through, because that moves it through much cleaner and much quicker. We get into trouble when we try to suppress it and push it away, because that energy stores in the body. We get illness, we get addiction, we get, you know, all of these things.
Thank you for mentioning this, because I think there is something as toxic spirituality. where people think you have to meditate for 20 hours sitting on a yoga mat with incense around you, and only happy vibes, happy vibes, happy vibes, and love will save the world. Yeah, it does. But the dark sides are there as well. If we don't look at the dark sides and we don't get to the core, then I think we didn't plan this, but I'm like, wow, you just said something that Tim said as well. And I think if I can find it, because it was just a few pages ago, it was a few sentences. Yeah, he's talking about how important it is what you said, what you just said, how about his childhood. Can I read it? Is
go for it.
Not scheduled, but
it's all flow. Read it. That's great.
Beautiful. So he's writing about his school experience. He says, my school experience in Stockholm, like most people's, was not very confidence building, nor was it functional. I was taught to suppress my emotions in a very unhealthy way from a very early age. It was promoted to talk about feelings, just not the bad ones, which in any human would cause a tremendous amount of confusion. If there was home economics at school, where you had to learn how to cook a damn potato, why did the students not get to know more about how to handle all the hard feelings that came with adulthood? Why didn't they learn more about stress management, how to overcome sleeping difficulty and dark thoughts? That should be on the timetable. Why should you be so strong and hard and quiet in the face of pain? Like, that's exactly what you just said. This is really after he's been through, I mean, this is late in the book. This is what, after he's been through a lot already. And this is an insight that he got. And I'm like, yeah, why don't we teach young kids this? And that's you talked about the hoodie. This is a thing that I'm doing now, is the You Are Enough, because I really want to remind each other and ourselves that we are enough. Because for me, a lot of my mental health, and if I read Tim's book as well, and I think from almost anyone, it is, why do we behave a certain way? Why do we hide our feelings? Why don't we set our boundaries? Why are we not looking at the pain? Because we don't feel enough. We don't feel that we are enough. There is a lack of self-love. And I think it starts there, so yeah.
And why, and it just gets more and more endemic. Like, why do we not take the afternoon off work and go for a run if that's what we want to do? Like, why do we fit? Okay, it all comes through this fear. All decisions coming from fear, and the root cause of those fears is not enough self-love.
Yeah.
Why do we keep doing jobs that we hate, or in relationships that are toxic? Allowing people to treat us badly, why not having boundaries, all of these things, because we have unhealed wounds and trauma, which essentially, and we live in a system which is full of programming to make us not feel powerful, not think we can do it, and that we're scared of, the debt collectors and the bosses and the parents. And I think this is why I make these videos, why I do all my work, is because it's not just a one-click thing. These messages are 24/7 around us, and it's in all our programming. It's everyone we speak to's programming. So it's a constant negotiation day by day with the thoughts that we're allowing ourselves to hold, which are our own programming. And we're having to undo, if we take it a little bit broader, not just our lifetime, but the bloodline that we've come through, the different soul experiences we've reincarnated through. We're shifting like this Dharma wheel of all this strong karmic energy of not believing in our own Christ consciousness, Buddhahood, this divine energy that is in all of us. No matter how much you dislike somebody's ego, like, we all have this in here. And all of the great religious teachings are about coming back to remember that.
Yeah.
And when we operate from knowing that, the choices we make are so different.
Yeah, definitely.
including, you know, spending the money on the therapist, buying the organic food, making time for the run or the jog, or saying no to hanging out with people who don't make you feel good about yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
If you were to give people 3 things that they could do to help themselves at this time, what would they be?
My top priority would be like, stop watching the news, talk shows, everything basically on television. Just get rid of your television. If you have a television, use it to watch a beautiful documentary on Netflix or something that fills your soul and fills your cup, or something to educate yourself with. But please don't get lost in a narrative that is shown on the television, because it is really just one side of the story. And even if it were really objective, it really does something to your mental health to constantly hear. We know that we are in a pandemic right now, and there is no news channel or TV talk show that I've seen in the Netherlands that has stopped talking about and putting fear in our minds and in our system. And fear causes us to stress out, causes us to have a weaker immune system, put our hormone system in a weird place. So I did that for myself, and wow, it makes me so much more peaceful. That's one of the most important things that I would suggest. The second one is, I think it comes to, because we live in lockdowns as well, still in a lot of places in the world. So we have not a lot of contact probably, or what I did during lockdown last year was having a lot of online talks, also with people. And there was time for everyone, but even there I lost myself a little bit, because I noticed I had to really detox from it. I got so tired to get in another call, in another video call, in another meeting, in another. So be balanced in what you take in online as well. Your social media as well, obviously it's the same as your television. It's like, be careful who you follow, be careful, is the person you follow inspiring you or not? Is it filling your cup? So also that counts for media, but also for real people in your life. Are they filling your cup or not? Or can you really be yourself around these people?
Yeah. So,
and I think the biggest tip when it comes to your social context, because people are really divided at the moment about things, even if you love the people and you don't want to say goodbye to those people in your life that are really having different opinions than you, just don't talk about it. Talk about things that you do still have in common, right? Find the connection again if these are people that you really love. Stop thinking in dividedness and separation. I think that's really, in this time, something that became more and more important as well. And the third thing, for me, really important is really to work on my own health, keep working on it on every level. So I have a spiritual mentor, so that is for my spirit, my soul, my mind. But I also take in healthy food, it's the food, everything. So basically what I'm saying here is, be careful with what you take in. Media, food, conversations, people, social media. It all comes down to what feeds you and what drains you. So there needs to be a balance. The things that drain us will come into our lives anyway, right? Pandemics, annoying people, oh shit, trigger on bleeding out, whatever,
Yeah.
But the more you start taking care of yourself, coming back to Tim, I also saw it in the book that I'm reading right now, and I've also seen it in real life. When he was not really doing well, he was really skinny, he really looked not healthy. When he started to become more in touch with himself, he also looked healthier, right? He also started really caring about himself more, coming back to you are enough, self-love again. So yeah, in general, from all these three, be careful with what you take in.
Yeah, great advice. Thank you, Renske. I would go 3 things. I would say sleep. as well. What we and like, so to stop looking at your productivity level in 2019 and comparing anything that has happened since to then. We're not going back to those times. That was a different way of being in the world. We are birthing a new world, and at the moment we're going through this like cocooning, caterpillar to butterfly phase, which is gnarly as hell. But if we keep on thinking, well, I used to be able to do that in a day, and I used to go to the gym this much, and like, it's just going to lead you to pain and feeling bad about yourself, and that's no good. So I need loads of sleep at the moment, and I'm like, but my mind goes, but why? But my body does.
Yeah.
There's loads of crazy, amazing energy coming through, and that affects our body. Second, I agree with everything you've said. Second was just being really mindful about what words you say to yourself, because what you take in will inform what you say to yourself, but really being clear, what am I beating myself up with now? Where am I enjoying things? Am I doing this because like it's on some to-do list that I've written myself? Can I write a different to-do list? Can I do this at a different point? Can I go and, you know, simple as like just sit still for 5 minutes and come back to it, or have a stretch on the yoga mat, or whatever it might be? Or am I in some kind of, you know, the Wi-Fi is so strong these days, you know, that kind of puts us into a brain fog. We don't think clearly, make everything much harder than it needs to be. And my third tip would be community and finding people. There is a lot of division, and it can be really draining to bite your tongue all the time, to feel like you can't be fully yourself. So it might be that those relationships have to end or go on hold, but maybe they continue, or maybe you find it very difficult to speak up at work, or whatever it might be. But find the places where you can, and the people who have a similar heart space and a perspective to you, because it is important. And we're birthing this new world, and those of us who have that perspective I think there's a real need for us to be together, so that we can unify and help this process speed up and move in the direction we want it. And the danger of only maintaining relationships with people who don't agree with you, who think you're mad, is that a lot of energy is wasted on protecting yourself internally and keeping all that energy in. Whereas if you can be yourself with people, you're moving your life and your energy forward. So making sure that you have that space is vital. And if you don't know where to find those people, stand in the park. All of my social media, come to my groups. I run a weekly group every Wednesday called Midweek Medicine. It's for everyone to share what they want to share, and different theme each week. And finding tribes that you can feel yourself, and you can feel like you're not the black crazy sheep, or the psychedelic vegan sheep, or the mental health freaky sheep, or all the different sheeps I've been in my life. You can come as you are. Yeah. What I would love you to share, because I think human design is amazing, is a little bit about, just before we end, human design, what it does for people, and how people can get in touch with you.
Sure. So I will first show something that I did plan, because otherwise people are really not going to get this if you're not familiar with human design. So everybody has their own blueprint, their own energetic blueprint, and this is unique to you. So this is, for example, mine. So from all of this is how I'm designed as a human being, with all the what I see there is where I'm easily conditioned, where what my strengths are, what my weaknesses probably are, basically what I'm coming to do here in this world, what my biggest life lesson is, my drive, my gifts, my talents, my character, how I'm built. So for example, I really see in a lot of things here that Tim's is very similar to mine. And actually I did yours as well, right?
Yeah.
They're quite similar as well. So what it did for me, so what it does for my clients right now, is you really come home in yourself. It's like, oh my God, I've felt this all my life, but now it's here. This is my blueprint, tells me really what I've been feeling all my life, but I couldn't put it into words. And then you can. So what you start to do is you get more insights, you become more conscious, but also you start to decondition. So peeling off the layers of the conditioning that you've built up in your life, but also knowing, again, where your weaknesses and where your strengths are. For example, I don't have that sustainable energy, that workforce energy to work the 9-to-5 grind all the time. Tim actually didn't have that either. And to be then touring in a schedule like his, which is for even people that have that sustainable energy, was still too much. But it doesn't mean then I'll stop doing the things that you love. No. How can you do the things that you want to be doing in your life, but in a sustainable way, in a way that works for you? So that is basically what I'm focused on with my clients, especially with high performance professionals. You know, they still have dreams and goals. Okay, but how are we reaching them? You know, how do you stay close to yourself and in a way that is healthy? I also do it for partnerships. So in business, but also in relationships, people, when you start to understand each other better, I can also see there's a lot of more understanding and less frustration. But also I can see how you work well together, how you really, where you add up to each other's strengths, you know. So 1 and 1 is 3 then, for example. It's amazing what it does for people. It's honestly, I see people coming home to themselves. I see them deconditioning, shedding off old layers. I see them more in alignment, more in flow. Again, it doesn't mean that when you do a session that the next morning you wake up and that your entire life is different. The only thing that it really does is so much insight, and in that sense it does bring peace already the first day, because you came home in yourself. And also on subconscious levels, this really, you know, even looking at your blueprint and working with it like that, you start peeling off the layers already on a subconscious level. But really, you know, working with your own blueprint for the rest of your life, I mean, I'm living my own experiment as well, right? So I'm only a few years in now, but I know it's only becoming, you know, better and better and better because you're peeling off the layers. Yeah.
That's so helpful. And I was listening a few days ago to one of my favorite astrologers, Molly McCord, and she was saying about the benefits of human design and how she was told for years ago, like, you shouldn't do marketing. Like, it's such a waste of your energy. And she's thinking, but how do I get clients? I do marketing. That's what I do. Like, I'm a solopreneur. I have to market. And then 4 years later, she stopped marketing and her business just took off. And it doesn't. And what I love about human design is like, it stops you looking at your competition, or whether you think that's trying to find a partner, and just understanding the self more. And then when you understand the self more, you can work with the universe in the way that you're meant to. Yeah, it really helps a lot. It's just beautiful. It's just I didn't have one session with a client that said, okay, this sucked and I don't really feel anything. No, everybody is like, you come to a really deep understanding of yourself. And on top of that, it's an investment you make for your life. It's not like I'm buying a pair of shoes and next year I don't like them anymore. It is information that you take with you for the rest of your life. And my goal is to start also guiding more and more young, talented artists, so they don't get lost on the way to their success like Tim has done. And this is basically my
I'm on a mission to really break the stigma and tell the people, yeah, I know there's a lot of ego also in the music industry, and a lot of competition, and it goes fast, and it is, but you don't have to lose yourself along the way if you know who you are really. Yeah.
Great. And how can people get in touch with you if they're like, this sounds really interesting, I want my session?
You can, well, for my, I have different things, but for my human design stuff,
yeah,
it's livingyourtruestory.com.
Great, I'll put that in.
Inspiration from Tim, because I think his albums were like true stories, and Tim, but anyway, so livingyourtruestory.com, or you can also drop me a line on my Instagram, which is Sairen Music, SAIREN music at Sairen Music. Yeah, I can drop in a lot of emails and other, but I think people are just like, no. So you can find me on that website and reach out to me on email or on my Instagram. Everything is okay with me.
Great, thank you so much, Renske. I'm going to mention what I'm up to this evening, tomorrow, because it's the solstice, and then Wednesday. Now I do this every solstice, and I mentioned at the beginning, this is the most powerful one of our lifetime. We can just look around at what's going on in the world to know that we're at a breaking point. And, you know, I use this analogy of being in the chrysalis. This is a time where we really have to be focused to get the butterfly out and get those wings flapping. And when we come together, in the same way my weekly sessions, if you feel like you're on your own, you feel like you're overwhelmed by the world, and we come together to meditate, to set intention, to focus for our own lives, but also collectively, that's when we become the real tipping point, because 1 and 1 doesn't equal 2 in terms of energy. 1 and 1 equals 10. 10 and 10 doesn't equal 20, it's 100. So these energetic ripples that we put in the pond, the collective pond of the universe. And a lot of my work is around designing ritual and ceremony for people so that they can process the big shit in life, and we don't have those tools in the West. And so these sessions are small versions of those where we come together. You can come tonight, tomorrow, and Wednesday, or just 1 or 2, 1, 2, 3, whatever's right for your life. And it's about opening up for the solstice, receiving that energy, and then integrating it. And you can book all of this on hearthealer.co.uk. You can also read about midweek medicine that happens every Wednesday on a different theme. You can jump in that community. There's a membership if you want to really commit to yourself for the new year. You turn up, you get recordings if you don't make it live, and you get recordings of all my work if you can't make it live. And I have some in-person cacao ceremonies coming up on the 28th in the UK. So if you want to do that, it's also on the site. And I do one-to-one support, like Renske does. All of this is on hearthealer.co.uk. So you've got 2 modalities who's, go to Renske, get your plan, start working, come to my drop-ins to talk to like-minded people as a parcel. And thank you. I say thank you so much, because I can really feel your heart, and it's been a pleasure connecting with you in the past year.
Likewise.
Christ is bringing us together.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. We really feel like a sister to me. Yeah.
And thank you to everybody who's been live on YouTube. If you're with us, I haven't been able to see the comments, and if you're watching it from the replay and seeing that bit at the beginning, apologies. I'll try and get that edited out. And you see people, not technology, for me. And I'll be back next Tuesday, live at 5. Tomorrow, live at 5 for the solstice, with a short one, because this week's big video. And big love to everybody, wherever you are.